here.
I have some issues with the new skirmish mode. Modes. Modus? Modem? Mode. It's a game mode, right? What did he say his name was? Gebatron. Alright, I got a chance to play the PTE that ran Thursday, December 7th, where they tested out some new variations on the upcoming Skirmish game mode. Unfortunately, it was late in the day and the server wasn't very populated, so I didn't get to experience all the mayhem these modes promise. But I didn't need a full server to identify a couple issues. Just a quick disclaimer that this footage is from the PTE, and of course anything you see here is subject to change. Now the problems I have are macro issues. I don't necessarily have any problems with how the modes work, or at least none that I'll get into in this video. As a matter of fact, let's talk about the positives first. The skirmish game mode and its variations, I had fun. The fighting was intense and focused, and it felt like every time I eliminated an enemy, or every time I was eliminated, I felt like it had a big impact on the fight, and that makes sense with the smaller maps. Players are just always in important areas. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of room to maneuver, but those lanes are smaller than they would be on a full-size map. I also really like the changes they made to El Alamein. The fighting just seemed more interesting, and it simply, looks better now. However, this is kind of a double-edged sword for me. One of the selling points for me when it comes to Hell Let Loose is those historically accurate maps. Now, I know that El Alamein is not one of those historically accurate maps, so I don't mind them making changes to it. But I would not be happy if changes like this were made to the other maps, or if we start getting a ton more of these fabricated maps just to benefit skirmish mode. And so now I'm going to get into what I don't like about these modes. My first concern is that we have so many variations on skirmish mode. By my count, we have 3 now. There is an original where we fight over the single point. I think some people are calling it King of the Hill or whatever. Then we have phased skirmish, which is kind of like a mini offensive mode, only it can get confusing depending on how the map is oriented. Anyway, then we have majority skirmish, which is just kind of like sideways mini warfare mode. And I'm not going to get into the details of how they work, as this could change, and we'll cover that if and when they are released. But my point here is that I don't think that releasing all 3 of these game modes, no, scratch that, variations on the same game mode at the same time would be good for the community. Take, for instance, phased skirmish. The way this variation plays out is different depending on the map's orientation. Here it is on Driel, and it works just like offensive. Take the first point, the second point appears. Take the second point, the third point appears. Take the third point, and the match is over. So just like offensive, except the map is smaller in scale, and we have 3 points instead of 5. Oh, and the attackers don't get extra time for capturing new points. All fine and good. Now let's move to phase skirmish on El Alamein, and we have 2 points visible, one on top and one on bottom. It's this way for both defenders and attackers. The third point will show up once the first 2 are taken, even though everyone knows it's going to be the central point oasis. So already we have a variation of a game mode that works differently on 2 different maps. Combine this with the other 2 variations and the already existing game, and I think we have a recipe for players getting confused as to how Hell Let Loose works. Or should I say even more confused, as there are still a ton of myths out there just as to how the old game modes work. Add these variations in at all the same time, and I think it probably just exacerbates that situation. I feel like the goals of skirmish modes typically are to introduce players to the mechanics of the game in a smaller scope so they are more comfortable when expanding into the larger aspects of the game. They also have the benefit of being perfect for server seeding as well as being a mode for those short on time. My concern here is that all of these variations don't necessarily help with those goals. The original skirmish mode I think does, but the other 2, I'm not sure if they do, especially phased. I also have an issue with how long these matches are. Right now they are 40 minutes plus 3 for staging, so 43 minutes total. If one of the goals of these skirmish mode matches is to make it easier for players to play hell let loose when they can't commit to a full match, then I think 43 minutes is too long. By the time you boot up your PC, load the game, find and get into a server and get playing, you are dangerously close to an hour time commitment, and at that point, why not just play a regular match? I think these skirmish matches should be a maximum of 30 minutes. Well, 33 counting the warm-up. But in my opinion, you could just do a flat 30. 3-minute warm-up and 27 minutes actual playtime. Whatever. I just think that the 43-minute game time cancels out one of the main benefits of this game mode entirely. Okay, so now on top of all that, I'm not sure how these modes are expected to be handled by the server owners. As in, what's the difference really between having a phase skirmish mode match in your rotation versus a full offensive match? Are people expecting skirmish-only servers? I'm just not sure. So where does this all leave me? What do I think is best? Well, no one is really asking me, so... but if they were, I'd say let's reduce the match time to 30 minutes. Next, let's only introduce the original skirmish mode with this next update. The following update, maybe go ahead and include, maybe majority skirmish mode. And at that point, I'd be fine with just those two variations of skirmish mode. But if Team 17 is hellbent on releasing phase skirmish, then maybe just wait until the update after that, and so on and so on. I think this will give players, new and old, enough time with these as to not start confusing them altogether. Or maybe they should just go back to the drawing board with these modes. I guess I don't really know. And that's looking at it from our end, like from the gamer's perspective. I would think that this would also appeal to them from a marketing standpoint. That's 3 separate updates that you could say you're adding new game modes or variations on those game modes. I just think that would be the best course for everyone. But what do you think? I really genuinely want to know. I think there is some different opinions amongst us content creators, but this has been my opinion anyway. Let us know yours. Okay, that's it for this one. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Check the description for ways to support Gebatron Gaming. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.